Merry Christmas! Hey guys! Happy Vlogmas! So today's Christmas Day. I might post this tomorrow on my actual YouTube. But today's Christmas Day, and in my Instagram this morning, I asked what questions do you guys have for me, and I'll do a little Q&A for Christmas Day. And so I got a few questions. I'm gonna see if I can remember them here, and I might have to go and check back on my Instagram. So Alejandro asked what was my favorite pizza that I made in this past month, and I'd have to say that it is, we made a couple weird ones, but actually we did it probably 2 weekends in a row. It was just the dough with some truffle oil, and then the cheese is a vegan cheese, and I think that was probably it. And so it was a white pizza with truffle oil, and it was so good. So it's probably my favorite pizza that I made. Okay. Next question. How do you deal with environmental issues on a large project? And so this one, I'm not quite sure what environmental issues a large project might have. So, I mean, there's potentially any number of environmental issues. For my projects, it's on the water side, so it's not remediating groundwater or anything like that. So we do have to take into account environmental stuff and regulations, and a lot of that is like permitting. So on one of my projects, my big reservoir project, the permitting that we have to be conscious about is for the waters of the US. So there's creeks that kind of run around where the reservoir is, and they're technically classified as waters of the US. So anything that goes into those creeks will eventually make it into a navigable river. So in this case, it's like, it's a big river in Texas. So we have to make sure that we do like any sort of construction, like disturbance around the creek, that it's not going to affect the natural way that the creek runs. And because of that, we have to put up silt fencing just to make sure that, you know, any sort of like construction, like runoff that would happen from our heavy civil construction site doesn't make it into the creek. If we're doing any like disturbing of the slope and like tearing it up or rerouting something, we have to get permits. You do what you call a PCN, a pre-construction notice, and it gives you a number of how much fill you can have in the creek. So cut and fill, so taking out and putting in, and you can only do so much, and it has to stay within whatever was in your original PCN. So we call them PCN fill volumes. And so we do a lot of making sure that, you know, all the restoration in the creek is benefiting the creek and is within our PCN. And it's very stringent in what we can and cannot do around that creek. So that's a big environmental issue that I do in my job. But of course, there's any number of environmental issues that can come up, where it's water quality, air quality, groundwater quality, remediation, things like that. Generally, we have somebody on our team who knows the regulations and knows how to set up the application to go in for the permits. And typically that's a big part of what they do, and their whole job is just working with these agencies to get the permits, which I find really boring. But I'm glad that we've got people that like to do it and enjoy doing that sort of thing. Is that? Oh yeah, that's my cat getting in the bed. yeah, so that's a big environmental issue that we deal with. Okay, let's see. Jen asked me if I was any sort of rock or crystal, what would it be? And I would say quartz. I really like quartz. So I did a mineralogy and petrology class as part of my undergrad. The geologist did a whole class for mineralogy and a whole class for petrology. Mine was combined because it was mineralogy, petrology for engineers, which at my school we called non-believers, or this is the mineralogy class for non-believers, which means it's the non-geology class. So like the math that I took at my school, and it's really just my undergrad that calls it this, or the people do. It's like part of the culture at the school. You know, if you take a math class that's math for engineers instead of math for mathematicians, you'd call it math for non-believers. Same with chemistry. If you're taking chemistry for engineers instead of chemistry for, you know, chemists, then it would be for non-believers, or for believers if you're taking the one that's meant for the people in that major. I don't know why people said that. But so I did a mineralogy and petrology class, which is interesting because you get to learn all about the different shapes of the crystals. But it can get really complicated. I was very glad that I didn't have to do a whole semester of each, because it gets real complicated real fast and how they grow. But I always really like the quartz. And I like how they're clear when they're just their regular form. And then it's when it has other elements or impurities in it, that's when they change color. So like an amethyst is a type of quartz, but it's got, I don't remember what it is. It's got something in it, some other chemical or element in it that makes it purple. Rose quartz, there's something in it that makes it turn pink. But yeah, so I like how there's all these different variations of the quartz and things like that. So if I were a rock or crystal, I'd be a quartz. I never thought about that before. Thanks for that question, Jen. Let's see. Next question. Why are you so good at Connect 4? This is from Sam. I beat him in Connect 4 pretty badly this morning. I found out you can do iPhone games. Now that I have an iPhone, you can do these games that are in iMessage. They're not like super crazy games. They're like Battleship, Connect 4. We played tanks for a while, and he beat me in tanks so badly. There's a tower, and then you have a tank on one side, and somebody else has the tank on the other side. And you change the angle of where you're shooting and how much firepower to try to get it over the castle and hit the other person's tank. And it's pretty embarrassing how bad I was at it. He was like, I'm a little concerned for the state of our water infrastructure and how you can do projectile physics. And I was like, well, the problem was I can't remember. I would go and I would miss, and he would go, and I forget how I missed before. So then I would just go again. And so I wasn't like optimizing it each time based off my previous one that I missed. And I don't know if there's a way to go back and see like, oh yeah, where did it land the last time when I did it at 80% power instead of 90% power or whatever. And then the wind changes. And then a couple of times it changed the ground. So like the tank on the one side was on higher ground. So then you have to like have more firepower to get up and hit it. So yeah, I'm not very good at tanks, but I'm very good at Connect 4. I used to have, I don't know if you guys remember, in the 90s, there were these car games. They're like electronic car games. And so when we were going on long road trips, which is how we did vacations, I don't know if it was just 1 year that we had these, but it was just like a little handheld electronic game just for Connect 4. And I got really good at Connect 4. But I could beat the computer on hard. So my trick is to just go for all offense. Though sometimes because I'm going for offense, I don't look well enough to see that like they're actually doing something really simple, and I lose. But I do like the bars in West Austin, back when we went to bars, that have the really giant Connect 4s that are like 3 or 4 foot tall. And you've got these like big, like the pegs or the, whatever you call it, the pucks that go down. But yeah, it's fun to play a really large Connect 4. But then everybody at the bar can see you either winning or losing. I guess it's the same with those really large Jengas that people play. But Anyway, I think that was all the questions. I had one question, do I have a boyfriend? The answer is no. And one more question, how was your Christmas? And it was good. I sent my parents some stuff to bake with, and I told them beforehand to get some groceries. My mom thought for sure we were going to be making pizza, which I don't know how I would do pizza over Zoom with my parents because you need a lot of things. I've got my pizza stone, which I just use a big cast iron. I've got my pizza peel. It's very hard to pull pizza out of the oven without a pizza peel, so I don't know how people do it. I also, because I worked at a pizza shop when I was in high school, I'm really good at using a peel because I used to work the oven sometimes whenever I could convince them to let me, back there and work the ovens during rush hour. Yeah, so it would have been really hard. Also, I do the long fermented dough, so we wouldn't be able to make a dough over Zoom. They would have had to make it beforehand because even the ones that's not slow fermented, you still have to let it rise for a couple of hours. And obviously the longer the rise, the better, the more air it has in it. Like bulk fermenting and rising and just everything you have to do with it would be too hard. But apparently I tricked my parents into thinking that we were doing pizza, and we were making these little loaves, and I sent them these little Christmas loaf pans and some spatulas that looked like mittens. Some other things, like I sent my mama a bag. It's like a Christmas bag that you put like wine in and give it to someone as a present. And so on the grocery list, I had her get a white wine. She called me from the store. She's like, they don't have a Riesling. Oh, I told her to get a Riesling because she likes Rieslings. And she called me from the grocery store and was like, they don't have a Riesling here. And I was like, I think a Chardonnay or something like that would work. So my mom thought for sure it was like part of the recipe. But no, it was just to put in the wine bag. And then I sent her. So she took a really pretty picture of like the recipe and the loaves, and she had a poinsettia there, and she's going to put it in her scrapbook. But yeah, my grandmother was over with my parents. She came over for that, and so my brother was here. It is cold. 69.
Yeah, freezing.
90 degrees. And we made the loaves here. I actually couldn't find cranberries at all. It was a cranberry orange loaf. And because I couldn't find cranberries at all at H-E-B, which is weird because last 2 or 3 years, they've just had them right when you walk in, and I get several extra bags and I freeze them so that I can make my cranberry chutney throughout the year when I can't find cranberries. But this year they didn't have any, so I don't know if there's something going on with like importing or what happened with the cranberries this year. But I couldn't find any, so I had frozen blueberries that I put in, which weeped a little bit in the water, and so they weren't like as great looking. It took a little bit extra to bake them, but yeah, we baked together, we opened our presents, we baked together, we put it in the oven. I had some stockings here, and so my brother and I opened our stockings, and the cats had their little toy in the stocking. And so my brother had his cat here as well. So it was the 2 cats and my brother and I, and we Zoom baked. And then I made up some icing to go on the top of ours. So we had some icing and some oranges on the top of our little loaves. And my brother brought over some cookies as well. So we had cookies and loaves and did presents. And I also opened up some other presents that my other grandparents had sent that they just sent here for me and my brother both. And so we opened those up. And so that was really nice. Yeah. It's always sad kind of taking down the Christmas trees afterwards, but I think that's probably what I'm going to get up to this weekend. Let's take down the Christmas tree, do some reading, some relaxing. I have a Christmas stout that I had gotten last week and that I haven't finished all of them yet. So maybe I'll have a Christmas stout tomorrow and take down the trees. I don't know what I'm gonna do tonight. It's weird because it's just like a Friday night now that Christmas and everything is over. And yeah, it's like the fanfare of the month is gone. I'm watching my cat get into some stuff behind the camera here. It's dinner time, huh? Dinner time? Yeah, okay. We'll get you some dinner. Yeah. But anyway, that's how my Christmas went, and thanks for doing Vlogmas with me, you guys, and sending in your questions. It's fun to answer questions. And yeah, hopefully you guys learned something, or even if you didn't learn something, had some fun watching the festive Vlogmases, and it'll be nice next week not to be doing video editing and just be like sitting down and reading and relaxing. But it's been fun doing it this year. I didn't do nearly as much as I thought I was gonna do just for being at home. So I just don't know where the time goes sometimes. But anyway, bye.